Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Rangers Review Team News Reaction Mark 2. Didn't quite work in the Ibrox press room. The Wi-Fi signal down there, not the greatest, but Jonny has now made his way to the press gantry and we'll give a proper reaction to this afternoon's team. I'll quickly run through it, Jonny, and then I'll get your reaction to that side that Giovanni van Bronckhorst is starting today. It's McGregor in goals, back four of Tavernier, King, Davis, Barisic, a midfield of Lundstrom, Arfield and Davis, Tillman and Ryan Kent supporting Antonio Cholak up top. On the bench for Rangers this afternoon, folks, John McLaughlin. Ridvan Yilmaz makes it. Of course, he picked up a slight knock in midweek, but he's fit enough to start, to make the bench at least. Rabbi Matondo, James Sands, Alfredo Morelos, Scott Wright, Kamar Roof, Charlie McCann and Fashion Sakala. Jonny, what's your reaction to that lineup?
Yeah, well, obviously, it's a few changes as you would expect from the Dundee game. And I think fundamentally, you've got a team there that's more than good enough to beat Livy. What I would say, Derek, is I'm not a massive fan of Tillman at right wing, and that looks like where he's going to play based on that midfield. I mean, obviously we don't know until we see them line up, but it looks like you've got a front three there of Kent, Cholak and Tillman. I'd love to see Kamar Roof in this game. I want to see as many goals in this team as possible. I want to see Fashion Sakala in the team because that's what he gives. So from that point of view, you look at that starting lineup and you ask yourself, where's the goals coming from? Where's the dynamism coming from? You look at the midfield. Stephen Davis will give you creativity from the base. I really like that. That's a positive. In terms of runners in front of him, John Lundstrom can give you that, and I'm glad to see him in an 8 position. That should get the best out of him. He's capable of playing in the base, or he's capable of running up and down. He's got a great shot, and if he's given that freedom, I'm pretty confident that John Lundstrom can make an impact. Scott Arfield, I've said before and I'll say again, good player, still capable of offering a lot to Rangers. But at his age, it's not ideal. I don't think that he's being asked to go to the well week in, week out. And you'd have expected him to be someone that was a squad player, providing as much off the pitch as he does on it at this stage of his career. But given the situation with injuries, the likes of Lawrence, and I think to some extent Lowry as well, you find yourself a little bit short in that area. And listen, that's going to be an issue right until the end of the season and when the transfer window opens. Rangers need to go out and add to this midfield. There's no doubt about it. We all said it at the end of the transfer window. They looked like they were short of a midfielder, and so it's proven. And listen, they've been a bit unlucky in terms of injuries. Tom Lawrence, I think, was the one player that you absolutely just couldn't lose. And in losing him, it's left Rangers really, really exposed in terms of a goal-scoring threat and energy from central positions. Yeah. I mean, the front three, Fashion Sakala for me, Derek, I think he should be in. It's obviously he's on the bench there, but I think he adds so much in terms of goal threat. Yes, he's frustrating, but I would like to have seen him in. Yeah.
Lots of comments. Folk are just concerned with the lack of pace, Jonny, in that side. I think you touched on it. The midfield is a concern. It needs addressed. There's no doubt about it, especially if, like you say, Tom Lawrence is not going to be seen for a considerable period of time. Ditto Yanis Hadjilo. Van Bronckhorst did say he's in the final stretch, but we won't be seeing him until January at least, I don't think. But in terms of the other players in that side, Ryan Kent is one. You mentioned Fashion Sakala. Kent is obviously someone that is badly out of form, Jonny. There's no doubt about it. I think Van Bronckhorst has tried Rabbi Matondo out there, but is there an argument to maybe start Matondo out there as opposed to Kent, or even Sakala? I think Sakala came in and did well for me, like Hearts, St Mirren, the 4-0 game. He did well in the cameo at Anfield. I don't think he was the worst player in that game against Liverpool at Ibrox, and then he's out the team. Do you feel a bit sorry for Sakala at the moment?
I do, because I thought he was actually one of the most dangerous players in the first half. Had a couple of great moments against Liverpool. It wasn't like he was a total disaster. Certainly against St Mirren, second half he was great. He was really, really good. And with Sebastian Sagala, again, he's a player that's going to sometimes frustrate you, but if you look at his numbers, his raw numbers, he gives you output, which is something that Ryan Kent has struggled with. Now, Ryan Kent delivers assists, there's no doubt about that, but he doesn't deliver goals. We've seen it season after season after season. And if Rangers are huffing and puffing, if they're struggling against the low block, which I'm certain they're going to come up against Livingston today, Livingston don't tend to come to Ibrox and open up.
No.
Then for me, Sebastian Sagala is a guy that is going to give you a little bit of that something special, a little bit of that spark. Even if there'll be times in the game you're going to want to wring his neck because he's infuriating and he's frustrating. But
yeah.
I think he's always liable to pop up with a goal, Derek, and that's something it's not that prevalent throughout this squad, is it? Let's be honest. It's something that the team have struggled with at times. Good to see Roof on the bench there.
Yes.
I know when my screen was freezing in the earlier video that we did, I thought Roof was starting, just the way that the screen froze on me there. But he's a big figure for me if you can keep him fit. So I'd like to see him get at least half an hour and get him bedded in, because I think the way Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is playing, the way Tillman's playing today, presumably is tucking in on that right side to allow James Tavernier to overlap. If that's the position, if that's the way that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is going to play, and listen, he's done it before, doesn't play that every week, but Kemar Roof is built for that. Everything we've seen, that's a natural situation for him. He'll get close to the striker, no problem. He's very intelligent in terms of his movement. And Kemar Roof, we all know, if you're talking about numbers, a bit like Sakala, he delivers numbers when he's there and thereabouts in terms of his fitness. So I certainly want to see a bit of him today. Hopefully at least half an hour to get him back up where he needs to be, because you know, we've all got our opinions on Kemar Roof's fitness and what that means, and whether or not Rangers should be signing players that have had issues in their records. But there's no doubting if you can keep him fit, then he's one of the best attacking players at the club and needs to be made the most out of having someone who's capable of doing that. And I don't know what the comments are saying, Derek. I don't know if Kemar Roof's someone that maybe splits the support to some extent, but I don't think people can argue with the kind of goal return that he's offered while he's been at Rangers, when he's been able to play.
Yeah, he's top quality. The only issue is he's injury prone, of course, and you can't really rely on him, which is very unfortunate. But the manager was asked if he would be inclined to play him on the right, and he says he has seen him play there in a slightly different system. So I don't think it's something that it wouldn't be a surprise to see him come on and feature over on that right-hand side. Sakala is an interesting one. The manager talked about structure at length yesterday, and for me, Fashion Sakala is someone that deviates from said structure on numerous occasions. So I think that's the reason why we're not seeing them as often as what many supporters would like. But so that is a team, folks. An interesting one. I'm with you, Jonny. I'd like to see a bit of Kemar Roof this afternoon at some point. I'm just concerned about the lack of pace and dynamism in there. It's clear the manager just hopes to get through this little run of fixtures, get to the World Cup break, and then you'd like to think that a bit of investment come January reinforce that midfield area and get a bit of pace in there. Pace and energy, I think, is certainly lacking at the moment. Just to give you a rundown of that Livingston side, folks, it's Shamal George in goal. Then they go with Devlin, Obalai, Fitzwater, Montano, Holt, Kelly, Shinnie, Stephen Kelly returning to Ibrox, Scott Pittman and Joe Nupley. Stephen Kelly returning, Jonny, be good to see him. I'm sure he'll get a nice reception at Ibrox as you fight with the PA there. But let's just hope he doesn't have, he's not on top of his game this afternoon. As we can see Stevie Clifford behind you there. Good to see Stevie and Adam Thornton, friends of the show. Great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I am fighting with the PA here. Stephen Kelly, I always felt he was a bit unlucky there in terms of his spell at Ibrox and should have been given a bit more of a chance, because I've always liked him. So it'll be good to see him strut his stuff at Ibrox today, but I think everybody will be hoping that he doesn't have quite a top performance.
Yeah, and VAR, Jonny, at Ibrox now, of course, we've seen it in operation in the Europa League and Champions League at the stadium. First time, of course, in a domestic setting. What's your feeling heading into that one? Do you think Let's hope it's not going to get used, put it that way. But I think in the main, it's good that it's been introduced into Scottish football. And we've seen it, of course, used in the earlier game at Tynecastle and, of course, last night at Easter Road.
Yeah, well, I thought last night was extremely smooth. I think the way it's been handled by the SFA has been really good. They've made sure that everyone is fully aware of what will and won't be looked at by VAR. I think people should have a really, really strong handle on the elements that are going to be checked. Every goal will be checked. And the fact that there'll be certain things that might be slightly frustrating for fans when they first happen. For example, second yellow cards don't get looked at. So a second yellow card, despite being a bit of a game definer at that point, won't get looked at, which I'm not mad keen on. I think they should look at second yellow cards, but I can understand why not, given that they're not looking at yellow cards generally. But I think it's been well handled. It's quite clear that they've got a really good facility that they've set up. It's no expense has been spared on it, and there'll be ups and downs, of course there will be. But at the Rangers review, listen, we like to concentrate on a more mature debate, and there's been a lot of hysteria already this morning. There'll be continued hysteria today after the events at Tynecastle. Obviously, I've not seen that game. It's been on in the background on various iPads in the pressing at Ibrox today, but so I've only seen flashes of things. But the key thing is VAR will overall make better decisions. You've got to be very, very wary of anyone that's going to personalise VAR down to individual decisions, because any kind of change in the game or any kind of element that moves with the times is going to be skewed by single data points. So if you look at it one game in isolation, then people can make their minds up. But you have to look at it over the course of a season. You have to be fair and give people a chance also to get fully used to the system. I don't think anyone picks up something for the first time under professional scrutiny and is as good as they are a year down the line or 5 years down the line. So listen, we're going to see improvement. What we saw in Italy and Serie A when it moved in very, very early, there were early adopters over there, was that it was chaotic at first, but now you barely hear about any problems in Italy. Same in the Premier League. I think they've adjusted their almost their mentality around VAR a little bit and moved with when there's been heavy criticism. And of course it still caused controversy, and that's always going to be the case because refereeing isn't about specifics, it's about interpretations. It's subjective. People need to be a little bit more adult about that. There's going to be room for interpretations, and there's some decisions that are very, very marginal, right down the middle of a scenario that it's difficult to call one way or the other. You can make a case for both things. And in a sort of in a country like Scotland, where we're very polarised, two massive clubs, of course there'll be those that are looking to kind of impinge VAR on the basis that there's been a decision that's gone against them or for them. And I think it's much bigger picture than that. Now, there was a meeting 4 years ago, I was talking to somebody about this earlier on today, with the referees, when I think it was Crawford Allen, certainly somebody at the very top of the SFA's refereeing department called a meeting and to have a discussion about the future of Scottish football referees. And every manager that was in attendance that day said they wanted VAR going forward. They've got it now, and I hope that they kind of show a level of maturity when kind of an understanding as it gets faded in.
Yeah. Mark gets in touch, friend of the show. I think this is probably the best time for us with VAR, with most of the problems ironed out. It's in place at Ibrox this afternoon, folks. What's the weather like, Jonny? I see a lot of people saying it's pretty chilly.
Yeah, listen, it's not cold, mate. It's excellent conditions for football. It's got that kind of, back when I was a young player myself, I would have loved these conditions because it's slightly damp underfoot, which means the ball will zip around really nicely. Very, very good for Rangers in a big open pitch like Ibrox against the team that's going to sit in. It's not, like I say, it's not cold, it's just perfect for football. I mean, maybe from the spectator's point of view, you could do with it being a touch warmer, but nobody's going to be freezing their fingers off in the press box today, put it that way. And there might be a little bit of rain, there was a little bit of rain earlier, but that'll only aid, I think, the zippiness of the pitch.
Yeah, and Duncan gets in touch. Good Lord, Derek's at home for a change. Yeah, Jonny is out on on the field for us this afternoon, folks. He's at Ibrox, and we'll get all the reaction from today's game. We'll be back with a post-match reaction video, so stay tuned for that and all the fallout from the press conference as well. Okay, Jonny, we'll speak to you a little later on. Just a rundown of that team again, folks. McGregor, Tavernier, King, Davis, Barisic, Lundstrom, Arfield, Davis in midfield. A front three of Cholak, Kent and Malik Tillman. On the bench for Rangers this afternoon is McLaughlin, Ridvan, Matondo, Sands, Morelos, Wright, Roof, McCann and Fashion Sakala. Okay, we'll be back a little later on, folks. But until then, enjoy the game.